We're back.
We did it.
Every time we have to say that now.
Yeah.
It's a catchphrase that no one wanted.
That's true.
And no one likes.
Didn't even know it was a catchphrase. I didn't know that we said that every time.
I think we've said it like every single time. I think it's just so we know it's on.
Yeah.
That it's doing something.
Mm-hmm. That's how we know we're back, is by saying we're back.
That's right. Well, today we talked a lot about what we're going to call this video.
Mm-hmm.
And we had maybe a little fight. Maybe.
Well,
although we say that and people think we're serious. We didn't really fight.
It wasn't a fight.
It wasn't anything. But I think this is going to be, our favorite read so far of the year, right? We're over halfway.
Mm-hmm.
We've read some books.
Yes.
These are just 5 of them. It doesn't mean they're even the top 5.
No.
But up in the highness of what we've read.
These are the high fives.
The high fives of the year so far. Yes, and we did it.
And we
didn't miss.
We didn't.
It's great.
Proud.
So I'll kick it off.
Go for it.
Yeah, with a book called Cinnamon. This is by Happy Tank.
Is that?
That's what it says. It says Happy Tank.
It
does.
Victoria
Douglas.
I think Happy Tank might be I think that's the name. Cinnamon 1.
No. Oh, okay. So maybe.
Maybe it's like the.
Listen. Some artists and writers have like weird code names sometimes.
Yeah.
I was like, okay.
I get it.
Victoria Douglas. I apologize, Victoria. You're not watching this, but sorry. Anyway, I loved Cinnamon. I, of course, picked this up because of the cover.
Why wouldn't you?
All I saw, if anyone knows anything about me, maybe you don't. Love cats, love cat comics, especially.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to get this. I picked it up blindly, didn't know what it was about. I was just like, hey, look at that cover. There's a little cat down here, and then this appears to be a big cat. What's going on with Cinnamon? Well, this is the adventures of Cinnamon, who is this little cat and this big cat. Both cats. So they're just short little stories about Cinnamon, the cat, doing some everyday things. So, but in her mind, she's this big, awesome, kind of badass cat, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to get like a good, so here's her looking at like the cups of water on the sink and trying to get around them. In her mind, they're like sticks of dynamite and she has to get through them to like, and here's she actually jumping and there's her in her head.
Mm-hmm.
It's stuff like that, which is such a fun concept. And so you go on this ride with Cinnamon, and you see real life Cinnamon, but also Cinnamon in her mind and how she sees herself. And it's so fun. And they're just like everyday adventures like that, but they're actually like in her head. It's kind of like Rugrats to me, right?
Sure, yeah.
So in what's actually happening is they're playing with boxes, but in their heads, they're like on space adventures and, going to the moon and things like that. So it was so fun. I loved how it was drawn. I like the colors in this because they're kind of scattered throughout, right? They're not like, it's not traditionally colored, which I like. Really loved it. It says volume 1. I want more. I'm looking forward to more.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really good. I really want to read that one.
Yeah, you'll like it.
I need to. First one for me is Scuttle and his pals. I always want to say Scuttle and his pals, and so I had to double check for myself. But this is the Crackpot Comics of Basil Wolverton. And Basil Wolverton is a classic cartoonist, famous for doing a lot of work with Mad Magazine and a lot of stuff. And this is just like a collection of like all of his weird comics, like a lot of his strips that he did. Scuttle, who is works for a newspaper and a bunch of other stuff, and it's just wild, crazy stories. Just a lot of like perfect old school cartooning. And I had never read a lot of this stuff, which was surprising. Because some of the stuff, I'm trying to find a couple good ones. There's Mystic Moot was another one of his strips that he did. And so just a whole lot of stuff. This is a volume put together by Fantagraphics. And, just the art is just like classic, fantastic cartooning. And, I always loved anything that Basil Wolverton's done. So I really enjoyed this. It's like the collection of older comics that I feel like I actually got all the way through in like a pretty quick amount of time, because usually it takes me forever to just stay committed to it because they're little shorts, and so it's like I feel like I can read 2 and then set it down and then forget about it for like weeks. So.
Well, and that's pretty densely written as well, like a lot of older comics are.
For sure.
So that's cool that you flew through that.
Yeah, and so yeah, it's great. If you like Basil Wolverton and you haven't picked this up, you should definitely do it. Or if you're a fan of just like old school cartooning and old school comics, definitely do it. But yeah, it's great. I enjoyed it.
Nice. My next one is probably it was my most anticipated read of the year and release of the year, which is Clementine by Tilly Walden. This is, of course, set, and maybe not, of course, maybe you don't know, but set in the Walking Dead universe. This is actually based on the character from the Telltale video games, which I loved. And I love the Clementine character in those. You know, it's all black and white like the Walking Dead books. Tilly's art is amazing. Tilly's one of my all-time favorites. I've loved everything she's done, and this was no exception. I adored this. I think if you aren't reading The Walking Dead, you can just jump in. Like, you don't need to know anything other than, you know, there's zombies. Walkers, I guess. But yeah, her art's beautiful and amazing, and you know, the story, like, it follows Clementine, who at this point is a teenager. She's got a lot going on. It's very dramatic. It's what you would expect in the Walking Dead universe. She deals with friendship. She deals with being terrified of people. She's been through a lot in her life. The first video game, she was a kid. She went through a lot. If anyone's, you know, if you haven't played the video games, you can jump into this too. They did a good job of like kind of recapping the moments you need to know. So you don't actually have to have any familiarity with that character. But it's great if you just want to jump in, or if you're already a fan of Tilly, I think you can jump into this and be totally fine. And it's weird. I've looked up reviews after this. There's a lot of people who hated this book, and I think a lot of those people are just people who expect it to be just like The Walking Dead, or, you know, have certain expectations for it. But just go in, you know, looking for a good comic, because that's what it was. And I have to give a shout out to the Guz Buzz. Check out his channel, Joe. Joe's wonderful. And he actually got to meet Tilly on her book tour for this and got this one signed for me. So thank you again, Joe. I'll keep this forever and cherish it forever, and I loved it. So looking forward to more. I think there's going to be 3 books.
Oh, I didn't know there were going to be more.
Yeah, 2 or 3. Something like that.
Well, sweet. That's awesome. Cool. I need to read that too. I don't think either of us have read any of the same things.
No.
On this.
No, we haven't.
So just about everything on here is going to be I should read that. Yeah. But my next pick is one that's really odd. But I think I love it just because it's odd. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't even classify it as like, quote unquote, good even, but just exactly what it should be. And that's my monkey's name is Jennifer, which I will happily say I picked up purely because why would I not read a book called My Monkey's Name is Jennifer? It is by Ken, and I'm going to possibly butcher the last name, Knudsen?
That's probably what I'd say.
I'm going to say Ken Knudsen is what I'm going to say, and if I'm wrong, sorry, Ken. But it's published by Slave Labor Graphics, which doesn't exist anymore, but that's who put out a lot of Joni Vasquez stuff in the very beginning, early Street Angel, and a lot of work. So I always liked Slave Labor Graphics. The art is just, it's insane. It's super messy. It reminds me almost of like Frank Miller, but less meticulous. Like there's a lot of, and maybe it's just because it's all black and white, but you can see there's like no gradation. It's just like, you know, harsh blacks and line work. So it's got a lot of like Frank Miller influence in there, I think. I'm gonna guess. But it's about this monkey named Jennifer, who is a pet of this little girl, and he like hates everyone. The monkey doesn't like the girl. He doesn't like the girl's parents, but the girl the first story is like the girl gets kidnapped and the monkey has to go and save her. And like his whole thing is he's like, I hate this little girl, but I know if I don't save her, then I'm gonna get hit by the parents because I'm a bad monkey for not saving her. And so like, you know, she like loves little Jennifer, the monkey, and the monkey, whose name is Jennifer, hates her and hates everybody because he's like forced to trying to find like the first page, I think. It's very early on, like, yeah, he's in like having tea parties with the girl and like is forced to do that. and they're like he's a beast and all this, and like she makes him like have tea parties and go on these adventures, and it was just so weird, and just I've never read anything like it, and I think that's why it's definitely one of my favorite reads, just because I can't say I've ever read anything else like My Monkey's Name is Jennifer.
And that takes a lot.
That's true. So there's that.
Awesome. Well, my next book, I feel like I have never read anything like this either. There's familiar tropes in it, but it just, I picked it up from the cover. I had no idea what it was about. That is Life of Melody. This was actually put out by Seven Seas, who typically puts out manga. This is not manga. I believe that was actually a webtoon, maybe? I don't know. It's Seven Seas and Hive Works together. But it is about these two on the cover. Well, there's three, but these two different beasts on the cover, and this baby, right? So the one guy, he's actually a fairy godfather and a beast man. So two totally different species in the supernatural world. But there's a human world as well. So they both kind of accidentally meet up in the woods where they're searching for where they know a human baby was left. So they both go to get this baby, and then they start fighting over who's going to take the baby. They're both there for the baby. So they end up saying, you know what, fine, we can't agree on this. We have to raise this baby together. Which we've seen done before, right? We've seen this done before, because they're total opposites, completely different, and then they have to kind of pass as this married couple in the human world. So the fairy godfather is able to kind of like put a spell on the beast man to make him look more human. Buffy wants to get involved in this. And, so it's about their friendship is, that eventually happens, relationship, because they kind of hate each other in the beginning, but I mean, they really do. Like, they have a lot of problems with each other, as well as just dealing with this world and raising this human baby together. So it was so good. Again, there were a lot of familiar tropes throughout this, but they did it in such a nice way, and it just felt nice. It was like such a warm read. Yeah. So I loved it. On the back it literally says 2 supernatural men and a baby. So they know what they're doing. They're like, hey, we've done this before, but this is different, and the way it was done was so great, and I love the art. So definitely recommend it. Yeah.
That looks cool. My next one is one I think we actually did on a haul, but that's Too Tough to Die. This is a comics and punk anthology. I knew I was going to love this book. I knew it was going to be probably one of my favorites. It was put out by Birdcage Bottom Books, and there's every comic punk person in here that you could think of, and it's all just little short stories and little collections, everything from stories of people rediscovering punk as an adult, and I think the idea is it's an aging punk anthology. So it's people talking about Iggy Pop and how Iggy Pop's old now and he's still the godfather of punk and still the craziest dude ever. Ben Snakepit is on here, who I like. Ben Snakepit. He did a lot of diary comics based in punk. There's just nearly just everything is in this anthology, and it's so good. So if you're a punk person, or if you like punk, kind of like punk, don't really know how you feel about growing up and still listening to punk, because a lot of weird stuff with punk I think is just I'm old, I work a full-time job now, I don't know if I can be punk anymore. It really kind of expresses it from I think that angle, which is really neat and a lot of fun. So definitely pick this up if you're interested in that, because I really loved it.
I didn't know you finished that.
I did.
That was part of your Heroes haul. Good job.
Thank you.
Good job, Rain.
I'm great.
This was also one of my anticipated reads of the year, which I of course adored. That is Jeff Lemire's Maze book. I loved everything about it. There's a super fancy edition I did not get. I don't regret it, because it was too expensive. Very pretty, too expensive. But this is classic Jeff Lemire. If you know anything about him, then you kind of already know what you're getting into. But this specifically is about a dad whose Do they say on the back? I don't want to like ruin anything. He's grieving the loss of his puzzle-loving daughter, and she loved puzzles. She always wore this red sweater, and he's like going on a walk one day and starts noticing this red thread around. And so there's a lot of mazes throughout this. There's a lot of red thread work. It's all kind of sepia tones until the red is involved, which I really like.
Yeah, that's cool.
And the way it was done was just perfect in Jeff Lemire. So I adored this. This has probably jumped up into my top 5 of his books.
Really?
Which says a lot, because I love him. He's my favorite. But yeah, I mean, if you've liked him in the past or you've never read him before, this is a good introduction to. Very quick read. Dark Horse put this out, and it's a beautiful story. So highly recommend it.
Awesome. That's a good one. I'll have to read that.
You should.
Next one. This is another one that I remember hauling. This was one of the in the first video we did, or one of the first ones. I said I wanted to read this in June, and I think I actually did read not in June. Did not read this in June.
I think you did eventually read it.
But I did read it, and it's Motorhead, the story of the rise of the loudest band in the world. And it's just straight up the story of Motorhead, and like all the way through Ace of Spades. So it doesn't get like too late in there. There's a lot of stuff about Hawkins, his Lemmy Kilmister's first band, and a lot of like when he left Hawkins and all of that kind of like bitterness that was there. But just really fascinating, and I really liked the art. And it's just exactly what you'd expect from the story of the loudest band in the world, because it's just a lot of drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And there was like one really cool shot.
That art is really cool.
It's just really neat. I always like I liked the colors, because there's not a whole lot of color, and I think that like in a story like this, it was like Motorhead's music in the sense to where it's like it's fast, quick. And you get it's minimalist in a lot of ways, but almost like deceptively minimalist, because it still does exactly what it should do and tells the story. And it's great. And I honestly, I hate they don't put the name of who did the art and who wrote it on the cover. So I'm sorry, I'm gonna find it here. Because it was done by a lot of different people. It was illustrated by Juan Riera, Alberto Balandria, and Jorge Mencilla. And it was written by Mark Irwin and David Kalanko. Or Kalanko. I don't know. We'll see. I don't know. They're not on the covers, which is sad, because they should be, because they did a great job. But anyway, this is a really good book. If you're interested in Motorhead, definitely check it out. Some cool stuff.
Awesome. And we don't do edits, so I'm bringing this back because what I said was wrong. The thread thing is not a thing, okay?
Oh.
Because I said that and I was like, that's not what happened. So what kicks this book off? We're back to May's book, everyone. He's grieving the loss of his daughter and receives a mysterious phone call one night from a girl claiming it's her and that she's trapped in the middle of a labyrinth. Okay, so the thread is throughout it, but he doesn't see a thread. I said that's not what happened. Clearly, I should reread this already because I forgot. But that's what kicks him off in the journey, and then there's a lot of puzzles going on, like a ton of puzzles, and there is a thread throughout it.
Okay.
But everybody watching was like, "That's not what that book was about. I read that book. That's not right." So I had to correct it.
You should reread it.
I should clearly reread it. Really, it's bad. But my favorite read of the year so far, I'm calling it right now. You already know.
I know.
You already know. That's of course. Should I just show this whole thing again?
You should, yeah.
Oliver Tree versus Little Ricky Alien Boys. This was put out by Z2. Everyone knows how I feel about Z2, but they put this out, so that was cool. Here's the actual big book. You know, of course I got this little signed edition, although, what kind of signature is that, Oliver?
Like, initials. I
know, I've seen his actual signature, which is really cool. That's not it. That's not it. But anyway, this, again, I mentioned it the first time when I hauled this. If you're a fan of him already, you should read this. If you're not, you should not read this. You're not going to get anything out of it. You're going to be like, what's going on? But if you're already a fan, it's so fun. It has so many references to like his videos and lore that he's like put out there before. Because if you know anything about him, the guy's a musician. He's a character. It's all, well, a lot of it's fiction.
Yeah, we don't know.
So so his world is fictionalized throughout this, and it's like even more like crazy and ridiculous than his persona anyway. Which apparently, he helped write this, so it makes sense. But there's a ton of references throughout songs and videos, and Little Ricky is an alien, of course.
An alien boy.
That was featured on his first album. So, yeah, it was so fun and ridiculous, and I loved it. That is Little Ricky himself with Oliver in the back. So.
Yeah. That's a good one. I really do need to read that one. That's.
I think we're going to do a dedicated video on this because we've now seen him 3 times this year.
Yes.
So we're going to talk about that and also this book because.
Why not? Why wouldn't we?
Yeah.
And then my favorite read of the year so far, and I posted about this on my Instagram, but is Cankor by Matthew Allison. I don't know what this book is about. I don't know anything. I can't understand. I don't understand it. I can't even express it, but I loved it so much. The art is so unbelievably amazing. And like, honestly, my wrist hurts looking at it just because I know he draws all this stuff traditionally and it looks painful, but there's not a whole lot of words, which is really cool. And that's probably maybe why I didn't understand a whole lot. But I mean, the Cankors are like these like beasts or these things, but I think everyone should buy this purely just for the amazing art and to support like a truly independent artist, because he put this book out himself. It was through fundraiser or something like that. It wasn't through Kickstarter. But like, there's these collections of shorts that the Ad House Books put out that have been out of print for a while, and like, so it collects that and then has some other stuff in it, and it's just insane. Just like, I'm just trying to highlight some of the art that you're just like, this is so weird and trippy and like nuts, and I loved it. And it's spot gloss and it feels nice. Feel that?
Oh,
see, yeah, it's nice.
It's soft.
It feels good. It's got some
nice.
soft. It's got an okay scent. Paper smells better than the cover, but I loved it. It's my favorite book of the year so far, and
nice.
I couldn't tell you why, and I think that's what makes it even more special.
We had 2 favorite books that were weird.
Yes.
So that's what we like.
That just, I guess that says we're weird.
And what do you like? What books are your favorites so far this year? We want to know. Let us know in the comments, please.
Yeah.
And,
Maybe we'll read them.
we'll definitely read them.
No, I'll read the comments. I meant the books.
Oh, yeah.
I was talking about.
Clearly,
maybe.
I need to reread May's book. All right.
Yeah, that's
I'll do that.
We'll go back and I'll read May's book, and then you can reread it, and then we'll know more.
Awesome.
Great.
Bye.
Bye.